Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's lecture on hypermagnesemia in non-pregnant adults. I'm delighted to have you here as we explore this important but often underdiagnosed electrolyte disorder. This lecture is designed specifically for medical residents and students, and I hope you'll find it both informative and clinically relevant. Before we begin, please note that this educational content is for learning purposes only. Clinical decisions should always be based on individual patient assessment and current guidelines. Always consult your institutional protocols and supervising physicians. This presentation is not intended to replace professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. So, what will you learn today? By the end of this lecture, you should be able to define hypermagnesemia and understand normal magnesium physiology. You will identify the major causes and risk factors for this condition. You'll learn to recognize clinical manifestations by severity. You will apply a systematic approach to evaluation. And finally, you will be able to implement evidence-based treatment strategies. Let's get started. Let's begin with the definition. Hypermagnesemia is defined as an elevated serum magnesium concentration above the normal range. Specifically, we're talking about levels greater than 1.9 milliequivalents per liter, or greater than 2.3 milligrams per deciliter, or greater than 0.9 millimoles per liter. Keep in mind that threshold values may vary slightly between laboratories, so always check your institution's reference ranges. Now, how common is hypermagnesemia? In the general population, the prevalence is only about 2 to 3%. However, and this is important in hospitalized patients and those in the intensive care unit, the prevalence jumps dramatically to between 5 and 31%. This condition is often underdiagnosed, and patients with kidney dysfunction are at particularly high risk. So always keep hypermagnesemia on your differential in these populations. To understand hypermagnesemia, we need to understand normal magnesium homeostasis. The total body magnesium content is approximately 25 grams. Of this, about 60% is stored in bone, 39% is intracellular, and only about 1% is found in the extracellular fluid, which is what we measure in serum. The kidney is the primary regulator of magnesium balance and can excrete up to 250 millimoles per day when needed. Gastrointestinal absorption varies with dietary intake. There are three primary settings in which hypermagnesemia develops. First, impaired kidney function, which reduces the body's excretory capacity. Second, excessive magnesium intake, which can overwhelm normal excretion. And third, increased intestinal absorption, which enhances uptake from the gut. Most cases involve a combination of these factors, and kidney dysfunction is present in the majority of symptomatic cases. Let's discuss renal dysfunction in more detail, as it is the most common underlying factor. In patients with end-stage kidney disease, serum magnesium levels are typically elevated to about 2 to 3 milliequivalents per liter. In dialysis patients, the magnesium level depends largely on dietary intake. Chronic kidney disease reduces magnesium clearance, and acute kidney injury can precipitate rapid accumulation. Remember, magnesium-containing medications are generally contraindicated in patients with advanced kidney disease. Now let's look at common sources of exogenous magnesium. Oral sources include antacids, laxatives, and dietary supplements. Epsom salts, which are nearly 100% magnesium sulfate, are a common culprit. Magnesium enemas carry a high toxicity risk, especially in patients with gastrointestinal pathology. Intravenous magnesium is another source. Importantly, over-the-counter products are often overlooked in medication histories, so always ask specifically about these. Certain gastrointestinal conditions can enhance magnesium absorption. Constipation prolongs transit time, allowing more absorption. Colitis and other inflammatory bowel conditions can increase uptake. Gastritis and gastric ulcer disease are also risk factors. Intestinal ileus, obstruction, or perforation are particularly dangerous. The critical risk here is prolonged retention of magnesium-containing cathartics in the gastrointestinal tract. There are several additional etiologies to be aware of. Familial hypocalciuric hypercalcemia can cause mild hypermagnesemia. Adrenal insufficiency and diabetic ketoacidosis are metabolic causes. Tumor lysis syndrome releases intracellular magnesium. Lithium ingestion can impair renal excretion. Hypothyroidism and hypothermia slow metabolism and excretion. And massive tissue injury from trauma, burns, or sepsis releases magnesium from damaged cells. Now let's discuss clinical manifestations. Symptoms correlate with serum magnesium concentration. Most patients are asymptomatic at levels below 4 milliequivalents per liter. Above this threshold, neuromuscular toxicity is the most common presentation. At higher levels, cardiovascular effects become life-threatening. It's important to note that hypocalcemia frequently accompanies hypermagnesemia and can worsen symptoms. At serum magnesium levels of 4 to 6 milliequivalents per liter, we see mild toxicity. Patients may experience nausea and vomiting. Facial flushing and a sensation of warmth are common. Headache and lethargy or drowsiness may be present. The key clinical finding at this stage is diminished deep tendon reflexes. This is an important bedside examination finding that should prompt you to check magnesium levels. At serum magnesium levels of 6 to 10 milliequivalents per liter, we see moderate toxicity. Somnolence can progress to obtundation. Deep tendon reflexes become completely absent. Hypotension becomes refractory to treatment, and bradycardia develops. On the electrocardiogram, you'll see prolonged PR interval, widened QRS complex, and prolonged QD interval. These patients require close monitoring and prompt intervention. When serum magnesium exceeds 10 milliequivalents per liter, we're dealing with severe, life-threatening toxicity. Flaccid muscle paralysis develops, including the respiratory muscles. Respiratory failure and apnea can occur. Complete heart block may develop. Cardiac arrest and asystole are the terminal events. A critical point to remember is that respiratory failure typically precedes cardiac collapse, so airway management is paramount. Let's understand the mechanism behind neuromuscular effects. Magnesium has a curare-like effect on the neuromuscular junction. It decreases impulse transmission by inhibiting presynaptic acetylcholine release. The early clinical sign is progressive loss of deep tendon reflexes. In severe cases, this progresses to flaccid quadriplegia and respiratory paralysis. This is why monitoring reflexes is so important in at-risk patients. The cardiovascular effects occur because magnesium acts as a calcium channel blocker. It blocks both extracellular and intracellular calcium channels. It also blocks cardiac potassium channels. This leads to vasodilation and hypotension. Impaired cardiac conduction causes bradycardia and heart block. In severe cases, this culminates in cardiac arrest. When should you suspect hypermagnesemia? Consider it in patients with chronic kidney disease or end-stage kidney disease who are taking magnesium-containing medications. Think of it when you encounter unexplained arrhythmias, particularly bradycardia, heart block, or ventricular tachycardia. Patients with chronic constipation who use magnesium laxatives are at risk. Any patient receiving parenteral magnesium should be monitored. And unexplained neuromuscular weakness or absent reflexes should raise your suspicion. Here is a systematic approach to assessment. First, obtain a serum magnesium level. Second, review the complete medication history, including over-the-counter products. Third, assess kidney function with creatinine and estimated glomerular filtration rate. Fourth, check other electrolytes, particularly calcium and potassium. And fifth, obtain an electrocardiogram if cardiac symptoms are present. Now let's discuss management with a stepwise approach. Step 1 is to stop all magnesium intake, including medications and supplements. Step 2 is to assess symptoms and their severity. Step 3 is to administer intravenous calcium for symptomatic patients. Step 4 is to increase magnesium elimination through fluids, diuretics, or dialysis. And Step 5 is to monitor and reassess serum magnesium levels. The first priority is to eliminate the source. Discontinue all magnesium-containing medications immediately. Stop antacids, laxatives, and supplements. Review intravenous fluids for magnesium content. Address underlying conditions such as constipation that may be contributing. Switch to magnesium-free alternatives when possible. Calcium is the direct antagonist of magnesium. It reverses both neuromuscular and cardiovascular toxicity. The dosage protocol is calcium gluconate, 1 to 2 grams intravenously, administered over 5 to 10 minutes. If symptoms persist, you can repeat the dose every 5 minutes. Continuous cardiac monitoring is required during administration. Treatment to enhance elimination depends on kidney function. In patients with normal kidney function, use loop diuretics combined with isotonic saline to promote renal excretion. In patients with moderate impairment, loop diuretics can still be used if the patient is not volume overloaded. In patients with severe impairment, end-stage kidney disease, or acute kidney injury, hemodialysis is the treatment of choice. Dialysis can lower magnesium levels within 2 to 4 hours. Prevention is key in at-risk patients. Avoid magnesium-containing medications if the estimated glomerular filtration rate is below 30 milliliters per minute. Monitor serum magnesium daily in patients receiving parenteral magnesium therapy. Patient education is essential, particularly awareness of over-the-counter antacids and laxatives. Use caution with magnesium enemas in patients with gastrointestinal pathology. And ensure regular monitoring in dialysis patients. Let me summarize the key points for your clinical practice. Hypermagnesemia is rare but can be life-threatening. Kidney dysfunction is present in most symptomatic cases. Symptoms correlate with serum magnesium levels. Remember the treatment triad. Stop magnesium intake, give calcium, and enhance elimination. Prevention through careful medication management is essential in at-risk patients. Thank you for your attention. I hope this lecture has provided you with a solid foundation for recognizing and managing hypermagnesemia in your clinical practice. Are there any questions?